A fascinating conversation, folks. I think you'll agree. As Dr. Lise Van Susteren, noted psychiatrist, explains how we deal with our children who are traumatized, if that's the right word, by what they've heard about this airplane that all of a sudden disappeared and no one knows where it is and people are on board. And what a just a tragic story. We're at the point now where your kid has said to you, your child has said, even though your tickets are non-refundable, I don't want to go and I'm not going. Lise, do we make that child get on an airplane?
You can't make a child do it. You've got to convince them it's the right thing to do. The reason is that the potential downside is too great. You could create some long-lasting phobias or anxieties. You just don't want to do that. You got to be really resourceful. Go to that bag of tricks all the way from bribes to finally potentially even some professional help, depending upon the child's age. Mm-hmm. And you know what? If worse comes to worse, my advice is that the family go on that trip. And if that child does not want to come and insists on not getting on that plane, my advice is to find a nice relative or friend with whom that child can stay during the time that you are away. But for the whole family to stay home and be angry at that child can just make matters worse for everybody. And again, forcing a child on an airplane is no solution either. So if worse comes to worse, the dramatic last stand is to say, well, then you can stay home with your friends or relatives or something like that.
So the loss of a few dollars is not worth the loss of a child's confidence and love, right?
It's too risky. Yeah. I mean, if you can force them, if your bag of tricks, I don't know that I could have done it with one of my kids, but if you've got some means that you bribe or some other creative solution, by all means, put some pressure on this system to make it work. But I would not simply physically force that child to get on an airplane. It's tough stuff, but the consequences are you cannot determine from here. I wouldn't do it. I think you're better off biting the bullet early on and saying, well, we'll abort for you. We'll go. You stay home.
You know,
and let them know. Let them know up front, and that might change their thinking, too. We're all going.
Right. Another form of pressure, but one that they can deal with.
Well, it's reasonable. It means that you're accommodating everybody, and you're not bending over backwards to reinforce something that's not really statistically logical.
Yeah. Well, you know, it's interesting that you pointed out. My mother now lives with me. She's 90 years old, and for the last 10 or some odd years, she did not fly. Refused to fly anymore, and she used to be a great flyer. And when we went down to my daughter's graduation, I took the train with her, 26 hours on the train. But we got there.
A loving son.
Yeah, but we got there. But you know what happened? I then started talking to her, and you're so right. I had a conversation. I said, why don't you fly? And she thought that she was on an airplane in Detroit that crashed some 10 or 12 years ago.
Oh my!
She was convinced that she was supposed to be on the airplane, that she was supposed to take that flight. And I said, "No, Mom, you were never supposed to take that flight." She says, and I showed her why she wasn't. And then I said, "Why don't you fly with me? Let's fly to Detroit." And we did. And she flew, and she now loves it.
Well, there's the point, is that talking people through their fears is much more effective. And you don't always succeed, but many times children and adults can see their way to daylight.